Hello guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Edmond Opoku and this is the Culture Convo. This is the first episode ever and we have our guest here with me, and please can you introduce yourself?
I am G. Adams and I am an American living here in Italy.
Okay, and she's a TikToker and a content creator and a YouTuber, and I don't know, I'll let you just introduce yourself.
Well, we both live here in Italy,
yeah.
And I've been in Italy for like 7, almost 8 years now, and I make a lot of content about my experiences living abroad and kind of like family life and just things that I see, observe, and differences in culture. So that was, I think, the inspiration for us to have like this conversation.
Yeah. And I've been following your journey so far, and I've been watching most of your videos, and I'm really interested about the topics that you talk about. Like you talk about the culture out here in Italy, in Europe as well, and I feel like it was amazing, and it was a must. It is a must to like have you here and express your views on most issues as well.
Yeah, I think like it's interesting because a lot of my content is not like, oh, I live this perfect life, and because I'm in Europe, everything is better, you know? And I think like that's what everybody's content usually is. It's just like, oh, look, you know, they're trying to sell you this love life with another country. And it's not easy to like live in someone else's culture. It's not easy to like be a black person in someone else's culture, in a white culture, you know? Exactly. So I always like give like black folks like a huge side eye when they're like black living in Europe and like, oh, the white people love me, you know what I mean? Like, what? Like, where are you? Like, where's this utopia that you're in? Because I ain't been there, girl.
Okay. So you're not really a fan of that?
No.
Oh, I see. And why? What's your reason? Can you give us a little background into that?
Well, because it's a lie to me. You know what I mean? Like, I've lived now in Italy, I've lived in Paris, and I lived in Guatemala. And wow. Every place is very different. And being in Europe and like properly living here, going through some of the bureaucracy and some of the experiences, like you cannot possibly think it's some sort of utopia, you know? And I just from like when I was looking for apartments, my husband is a white Italian, right? He was sending me out because he was working and I was, you know, at home. So he's sending me out to agencies looking for apartments and everything. I literally saw ads that said no blacks, no Africans.
You gotta be kidding me.
No, I'm not.
In this time?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, how is that legal? You know what I mean? How is it even legal to say that? And then there's no, the agencies are like, well, you know, that's what the landlord wants. So what can we do? I'm like, it should not be legal for you to make that type of discrimination.
But what do you think motivates that? Like, they posting, putting that board out there that no blacks allowed. Do you feel like Italians still have that old mentality about, oh, I feel like Italy is really like known out there for its racism and stuff like that.
I mean, I think that generally speaking, most Italians have not had to challenge this idea that they have. And it's interesting. So, you know, I'm American. If nobody can tell, I'm American. And one of the things, like, being from America is that you kind of like generationally understand why so many white people in the United States are racist, right? Because of the history of the country. And a lot of people are born and bred to be racist, right? Here in Italy, for me, it's like they choose, right? They choose to be racist because they don't have that same history where, you know, white people had, black people as property and they treated them a certain way and dehumanized them. Here it's just like, you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. It's just like, you know what? I don't like you because you're brown. You know what I mean? I don't care. So it's to me, it's like even that makes it a little more heinous, because when you make a conscious choice to be a certain way versus having been, like when our parents raised us, they raised us with certain like ideologies, and it's really hard to break away from those ideologies. That shouldn't have happened here. And instead people like grow up without having that experience and still choose to be racist. And the idea that people can get away with it because there's nobody here to say, hey, that's wrong. Like, they're not going to check each other, generally speaking. So I don't know. Like, that was like my very early on experiences. Once I was like, okay, I moved here and now, we're looking for apartments, and I go into agencies and they're like, oh yeah, no, there's nothing available. I just walked in. You know what I mean? Like, you have pictures.
You haven't even had conversation.
Exactly. Like, you have pictures in the window. What are those for? You know what I mean? Like, are those all sold for real? So
wow.
It was, I don't know. It was a shocking kind of like walk back in time, especially like being from America. It's just like, oh, that's the way it used to be, illegal. And maybe in the future, because now it's Donald Trump there, right? Like, but like it'll be like that again next year.
But saying that, how do you think America and its racism, like, and Italy, do you feel like in Italy it's more racism out here? And what was your first encounter with racism in Italy as well?
I think my first encounter was probably, I was like, and it's dumb stuff, right? I was at the grocery store, and this is after we had our first baby, and I'm at the grocery store. The baby's in the stroller, and so I put the things on the counter, and the lady was like, "Can you move the stroller forward?" And I didn't speak great Italian at the time, so I was I still don't, but I was like, I was like, what does she want me to do? And I kind of just looked at her, because I didn't understand why she wanted me to push it forward. I thought maybe she wanted to look at the baby, because like sometimes people want to see like how cute the baby is or whatever. So I was kind of like hesitant though, because I'm like, you want to look at my baby? Like, I don't understand. And she was like, push it forward, because she wanted to see if I had tried to steal things underneath the stroller.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. You know what I mean? Like,
what's going on?
Yeah, like, and it was just like, wow, okay. And stuff like that has happened to me on several different occasions. And then I don't know, like, maybe people have thought I was a prostitute, like,
oh yeah, I know. I feel like even back in Veneto, it's like when most white people see black women standing by they feel like they could come up and ask you, like, how much, I
mean, I haven't been asked how much, luckily, but there'd be times I'd be walking and people like slow down, you know what I mean? And I'm like, why are you slowing down? You know what I mean? Like, I think they wanted to see if I would be,
And speaking on that, I feel like black people are more sexualized here in Europe, here in Italy, because I read a piece from back in the days, and I think it was a song, and I think you even spoke about it, about when the old Europeans was going to Africa, they used to sing a song to motivate the men to join them to go to war in Africa. Yeah,
it was actually part of the propaganda, was that if you went to Africa from Italy to fight in the war, that you would get a black woman. Okay. And so it was like, and they had a song, and it was like a thing, it was part of like a government propaganda thing that they were doing in Italy back in war times. And to try and motivate Italian men. So like, it's interesting because black women, like African women, have been super sexualized, especially in Western culture. I can't speak so much about what happens in Africa, but definitely in Western culture. And that has been, I think, throughout the history of, you know, colonization and sexualizing Black women's bodies. And so I think that even in the US, it is overdone, especially like in our music and, you know, hip hop culture, you know, like it basically sells the concept of sexualized Black bodies. So I think it's always been that way, you know, and people think that Black women are easier or, you know, more opportunistic because they think, oh, you know, Black women have this mentality that they're less desired. And I don't think that's, I mean, especially in the United States, so you know what I mean? So, and there's a lot, like, honestly, if I had known what I know now, I don't know if I would have talked to my husband, only because
that's a very good
I know,
thing to say.
just because I am super like, oh, I'm not going to be one of those people. And so like when I came to Italy and people were like, oh, you guys, Italian, you know, Italian men love Black women. They love Black women. And I'm like, what? You know, like there's this, especially in the US, like there's this thing where so many Black men, you know, hate on Black women. And they're always kind of questioning whether or not this type of man might like them. You know what I mean? So they're like, oh, you know, if I go to this place, would this type of man like me?
Like Black men, most Black men, we love our women. We love our women.
I would say it's a lot of, it's really interesting because in the United States, it's really hard because what does that love look like? You know, like when you say you love your women, like, and I know this has also been an issue in countries in Africa where there's lots of single moms, right? And so what does love look like? You know, like making families and like leaving them fatherless. Like, what does that look like?
I feel like we need to learn more. Like as Black men, we have to do better. We have to do better in loving our women and protecting them, because we are the ones that are supposed, and I feel like people choose to do what they want to do. I feel like there are Black men out there that love their women as well and protect them and uphold them in high esteem. So it varies, you know. But we love our women. Black men love our women. I will side on Black men on that.
No, I mean, I feel like that's the way it should be, but I think that in the US, there is a lot of, you know, even sometimes like, I keep hitting this thing, even sometimes like with my content, like Black men will leave me nasty comments, you know what I mean? And it's like, I mean, it's really ridiculous sometimes just to understand that they want to be hateful for the sake of being hateful. And I don't talk negatively, generally speaking, about Black men. I talk like, I'll say all men are trash. I will say like, you know, like I will say like this specific group is better than the other. You know, like I think there's issues with, you know, how men have interpreted society across any like nationality, ethnic group. Period. You know, I think that that's constant. How that looks depends on a lot of different things, but there are some commonalities. And but I think that in the US, there has been so much of a idea that Black women aren't right, you know, and like being a single mother is like the downfall of society, but they don't look at how men are creating children and not staying fathers.
I feel like in these days, absent fathers is like the last thing like that we need right now. I feel like fathers really have to be there for their children, and it's a very major issue in the Black community where their father might probably be in jail or maybe he ran off, but I feel like that shouldn't be the way. It's a really bad situation. And do you think that it has a toll on the children, the kids, like single parenting and absent fathers?
Well, you know, I was a single mom before coming to Italy and having new babies, and I raised my son. And, you know, like, his father wasn't in jail. He wasn't like run off to like do gangster shit. He was in corporate America. You know, he paid child support. I had to put him on child support. It wasn't like he volunteered. So like the type of guy that a lot of times people are like making a stereotype, like, oh, he was probably like got in jail. He's got like, you know, or she's choosing the Pookies and the Ray Rays and all of that. Most of the women that I know who were still single mothers did not choose Pookie and Ray Rays. You know what I mean? Like, they were men who should have at least made, or society would have assumed would have taken more of a responsible role for their part in creating a life, right? But they didn't, because they can easily just be like, you know, like they can walk away and make other families and do other things. And they might stay with other children for whatever reason, but they don't feel a responsibility to that child because they don't feel a responsibility to the mother anymore. And I think that when growing up with my son, and I think what the problem is with some single mothers is that they still feel like they're missing something, not having that man in their life. And they're so focused on what society thinks of them versus living their life, like living their best happy life and trying to raise their best happy kids. They're so focused on the struggle of doing it. And we talked about community, right? And I think one of the things that helped me in respect to being a single mom was the community that I built for myself. And it wasn't like it was blood relatives. It was friends and, you know, male and female, and from different ethnicities and different like gender roles and all of those things, who helped me raise my son to be like what I think is pretty awesome human.
I feel like but before I even continue, big ups to every single mother out there that is trying their best to raise their children. Even I know it's gonna be hard. I know it's hard times, everything emotionally and even sometimes financially as well. But big ups to you all. You are queens, and
yes,
and as in even us growing up, I feel like we, as men, we have to uphold our women in high esteem, and we have to, because they do a lot for us. Women do a good job for us, and mothers as well, because it's not easy, you know. In the black community, right? Back in the days, people could put your child in place. But I feel like right now, it's changed. It's not there anymore. And do you think that also has a toll on us?
I think, you know, I mentioned like when I took my kids home, these little ones, they were not used to someone else like that wasn't me or their father telling them like, no, you can't do that, or that's not what's going to happen, you're in trouble. They were like, who are these people telling me, like? And so I think that exists limitedly to a certain extent, and I do think it's missing. I think the problem comes in the fact that we have no trust in one another anymore. People have misused children so often that we can't trust everybody. We can no longer trust someone to do the right thing for our kids.
I saw a post yesterday that said, the guy was like, he wouldn't let another person put his child in place, like shout at his child. And I'm like, because back in Africa, right, your mom's friend could see you outside, maybe with a gang or something, with a group of people, and you'll be like, yo, she was gonna call you and she's gonna say, I don't want to see you working with these type of people anymore, or something like that. Or maybe if you're doing something, maybe she catches you, maybe smoking or something, she could put you in place, right? But I feel like now it's not there anymore. It's not.
I mean, my friends can with my kids, you know what I mean? And I feel like here in Italy, that no. Like,
Really?
no, yeah, like, no. I don't know anybody well enough. I don't feel confident enough in most people, and I don't have that relationship with them. I think it really depends on if those people are in your life. Like you're saying, your mom's friend, that is somebody that's in your life.
Yeah.
And the people in my life, certainly, you know, like, but
people from the like people that you don't really know, then that's gonna be a bad situation.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, here in Italy, people are always talking to the kids, you know, like when they're little. I've had old ladies stop and say, you know, why are you giving your mom a hard time? Be nice. And usually my kids just like stare. But I mean, I've had that happen a few times. I think Italy, a lot of people like Italy because it feels like a bigger community because of that sort of thing.
Yeah. I feel like it's more family over here. It's family, and just like the African community as well. So, when you first came to Italy, Europe, what was your first cultural shock?
That Italians aren't nice. Like,
They aren't nice.
no, like generally, like in the U.S., Italian Americans have a very like welcoming reputation where you are just like always like family and everything. Outside of like my partner's family, when like they're not very social, they stay in their groups, right? There's no like, if you go to a bar, nobody's interacting. The groups aren't necessarily interacting with each other like they would be in the United States or something. And even in France, I met a lot of people like right away, like French people. And I had French friends like right away. And like, honestly, I've been in Italy now, you know, almost, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. And I just got like my first Italian friend like maybe a year ago. So I mean, they're not as open and friendly. Like I thought it would be much warmer, friendlier people here than in Paris. And I found, and I know a lot of people would disagree, but I found the opposite to be true for me.
Okay, yeah, Italians, I feel like Italians are always more serious. And
They're nervous.
They're
nervous.
That's true.
They're nervous and anxious. Like, I'm always like, where's the Dolce Vita? Like, all of you guys are stressed out all the time, like yelling in the streets. Like, what are they doing?
Like, Italian people really like to put their things in order. Like, they want their things in order. What do you think about that? Because if you don't do it this way, they are gonna be mad. And
oh no, but they don't want it. They like to tell you what to do, but they don't necessarily want to do it themselves. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, they're like, oh, this is the way it's supposed to be. You follow my way. If you do any, like, you're like, well, I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it this way. Like, no, everything is very, I mean, it's even with their food, you know, like how you can't make a variation in a recipe in Italy. You know, like if you're gonna make a carbonese or a carbona or whatever you want to call it, like one of their pasta dishes, you're like, you know what, instead of this, I'm gonna put, then it's not that anymore. It is no longer that. If you vary from, like, add something to it, like, it's no longer that thing anymore.
I saw a video where they was breaking the...
Oh yeah, no, that's crazy.
Like, wow, this is... Wow.
I did that too.
Really?
When the
and
first,
what happened?
Oh my God, my partner lost it. He was like, what are you doing? Breaking the spaghetti. Ooh. And I was like, it fits in the pot. He was like, it's not spaghetti anymore. And I'm like, what? He's like,
when it's longer or something.
yeah, you can't break the pasta. You can't reform it. Like, he's like, if you, in there, and that's what I'm talking, like the specific, like he's saying, if it's broken, it's no longer spaghetti. It's something else.
But what's the...
Because it's broken. It's broken. Oh. So it's not like spaghetti is meant to be that length and that's it.
Wow. So talking about you being American and your husband being Italian.
Yeah.
How has it been like? How were you able to navigate through like interracial marriage and that? I will put it. I don't know if that's the right way to put it.
Yeah. So this is not my first interracial relationship, and nor is it my first intercultural relationship. So I think like even when I lived in the U.S., I dated I mean, everybody, you know what I mean? So,
wow.
yeah, I mean, I've dated men from the Caribbean, I've dated Asian men, I've dated, you know, Russian men. I mean, I've dated like a lot of like Spanish. So
you've been around the world.
Not like that, but a little bit. So I'm like, I have more experience dating like interracially and interculturally than he does. Okay. I am the first like black woman that he's ever been with. So a lot, I mean, and he tries to understand. He's actually, you know, when I've had issues, he's called the manager at stores, like, you don't treat her like this. Wow. He's gone to places where I've had issues and like was like, you know, I'm gonna speak to the manager, like, were you bothering black people when they come in the store? So he's done things like that, and I think he tries to understand. There are definitely still misses, you know, and I was talking to someone else about this, because for me as a black person with a white person, there's probably certain things I won't ever say or do because he's white, you know what I mean? Like, for example, we had people over, and this black American woman was at the house with us, and she's also married to an Italian guy, white Italian guy. And we're playing music in the background, and she suddenly, like, this drum beat comes in, right? And she goes, "What is this jungle music we're listening to?" And I was like, "Girl, why did you say that in front of all these damn white people?" And so she was like, "Well, it's, you know, jungle, blah." And I was like, "Stop, please, you keep saying it. Like, you keep saying that over and over again." And now, like, all of them are like, "Well, what's wrong with her saying that?" I was like, because it's kind of like racist to be like, you know, because it's a drum beat. Like, what is jungle music? What is jungle music? Like the sounds of birds? I mean, like, what do you, like, you know, like, what is jungle music? And so they were like, "Oh, no." I was like, nobody has a Grammy for jungle music. It's not a genre, you know? So it's just like, who's got a Grammy for jungle music? Yeah. So then it was like, all of the white people were like, "Well, we're trying to understand why it's racist." I'm like, it's racist because when she said that, all of you had a very specific idea in your mind. And I was like, that idea coming from drums and blah, blah, blah is not jungle music. You know what I mean? So
there's a better way to put it.
Exactly. And so I would never say that, because especially like if it was like me and you know what I mean? I'd be like, "What's this jungle ass music?" Because we can laugh about stuff. But I would never say that around a white partner, no.
Do you feel like people get a little bit racist when they are in their own circle? Like, as in black people talking about, you saying, okay, if we were sitting there, we would say it's jungle music.
We could make fun of something, it's different. Okay. You know what I mean?
But because it's not nice to say it.
It's not nice to say it, but we all know that when we are amongst each other, we might say some fuck shit. You know what I mean? Like, right. You never know, you know, because you're comfortable and you feel free, and we know the history of certain things. So it's different versus like how when you get too free with white folks, they take it too far. You know what I mean? They take it too far, and that opens the door to too many things.
Last week I was talking to a dude, and he asked me like, can I get the end pass or some shit like that? And I was like, yo, what the fuck are you saying? And I feel like even with that word, they feel like it's cool to say it. Mm-hmm. And like, okay, I just said it. So I asked him like, yo, do you know like what would have happened if you had said this to another person? Because maybe we are in Italy, it's crazy, but I would let it slide. Someone else wouldn't let it slide. You know, we live in different worlds.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of times in interracial...
I will actually not let it slide, but I feel like you are just not much like, you know, like...
It's like, why do you want to say it?
Yeah.
You know, that's always the weird thing about me, like white people who are like, oh, can I get the pass to say that? Like, why do you want to say it? Like, what kind of thing does, like, what inside does that make you feel? Because that's what it comes like down to, some bizarre fucking feeling that they have. And I have had or heard about women talking about, or not just women, because I've seen like far worse things sometimes when it's a white woman and a black man. But I understand some people deal with like microaggressions in their own relationship. Sometimes they don't even know they're dealing with microaggressions because they do all of these things that their partner recognizes it's okay. And I hate to say it, but we have been raised in a world of anti-blackness. So to a certain extent, even us as black people have some levels of anti-blackness in us, and then we have to work on and decolonize. You know, for damn sure white people do. So if you have a white partner and you are making these kind of comments and letting microaggressions slide, you know, in your own fucking house, then yeah, eventually I'm gonna be like, yeah, I can do all kinds of shit. You know what I mean? And that's with anybody really, but it depends on what it is. You know, it's just like if you had a man who is cheating on you, the more you forgive him, the more he's gonna do it. Yeah. So it's like any sort of thing where you start opening the door just a little bit, a crack to let that shit into your house, then it's all over. It's there.
Over. I understand. And I also saw an episode of you which was talking about how you learn blackness, a level of blackness from Africans.
So it's interesting because like here in the US, I didn't have like a lot of interaction with African people. And here, you know, blackness, when you grew up in Africa, you're not black until you come into Europe and white spaces, right? Like you're.
Oh, what did you mean by that? When you grew up in Africa, you're not black.
You're not black in the sense of when because you're ethnicity. You know what I mean? Like black is only an ethnicity because of white people. Okay. So if you're in Nigeria and you're Yoruba, yeah, Igbo. Exactly. Yeah. You're not black. You're Yoruba. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's what I'm saying. You become black when you leave Africa and you have to be around white people, and then they group us all together as black people, right? Yeah. So I mean, of course you're black, but you're not. Yeah, that's not your identity. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think that when you come here and you're in these spaces with white people and you have to be black, right? Like you're no longer your ethnicity.
And even you being American, and me being African, but when we are out here, we are all seen as black people.
Exactly.
It's like they treat you like these are black people.
Exactly.
So do you feel like there is supposed to be some unity amongst us out here, even in Europe?
I think so.
Yeah.
And I don't think that a lot of Africans see that, you know.
Yeah, you brought that conversation up, and what was that about? Because I see a lot of black Americans some time back on Twitter, and they started this argument about Black Americans and Africans are not like the same people. We are different people. And what I mean,
we're different culturally, right? We're different culturally. And what I guess like for Black Americans, we've always had to look at each other for safety, you know, like generationally. Yeah. So if you are someplace, the first thing you scan the room, if it's all white people, you're like, okay, there's one other black person in here. You know, I got backup, right? Like I got backup. But here, if I see an African in this shop, I don't know if I have backup.
Why?
Because they might side with the other folks.
Why would you say that?
Dude, I have had an African man, like one of the security guards, like I was leaving Italy, I had made an order to be delivered. And my baby had like little crackers, not even like a whole, like, you know, like one of those little pouches. This man chased me out the store, grabbed me like this, and was like, did you pay for that? And I was like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like, and I was like, sir, you are doing the master's work, you know? And I was like, he's grabbing me. And so I was like, yes, I paid for it. And he was like, I want to see the receipt. And I was like, oh my God, it was like a little pouch of crackers. You know what I mean? And like, I mean, I had paid for it because I was having a bunch of stuff delivered, but it was just like, for real, brother? You know what I mean? Like, it was just...
I feel like that is a situation with that person. That doesn't mean... Because back in Africa, right?
Yeah.
Where I'm from, Kumasi, we love Black Americans. Trust me. Growing up, everybody wanted... Because I grew up in the era of 50 Cent and there was Eazy-E and everything. People we lived like them, we dressed like them, because I remember my big brother used to have a picture of 50 Cent, Snoop Dogg, Tupac, and it's with most of the young people in Africa, in Ghana.
See, I feel like is that just because you like the music and the culture, and because like here, okay, this is another, I meet a lot of African women with white husbands, right? Like they have biracial children. And some of them, more of them than not, with their biracial children, do not want them to be taught that they're Black. They'll be like, no, he's biracial. They look like us, you know what I mean? Maybe slightly lighter skin, but they have like Black hair, Black features, and they're like, they're Black. And so, and you know that the world is going to see them as Black children, but like, they'll be like, oh, he came home upset because someone called him Black. And it's
that's
just
brainwashing. Like,
I mean, it's crazy to me. So that's why I would say, I'm just like, I don't know. You know what I mean? And I'm like, my kids are Black. And period.
It really hurts me when I saw that argument, when I hear that argument, because I feel like we've come so far to still
be talking about this,
this mentality. Although I understand because of history and stuff like that, but
I agree. I completely agree. And I think that whatever that is part of what keeps us mentally and emotionally in a place of almost, I don't want to say subservitude, but almost, because all of the things that continue to happen from the perspective of colonization and neo-colonization that's happening, and what's happening even in the United States with Black Americans and all of the people of color there, if all of the people of color, Black folks, you know, like other brown people, like if everybody got off of this idea of, I don't know, like playing to who we think is in power, we would realize our own power, because we are the majority in the world, you know, like, and it's insane to think that the majority of people in the world are letting the minority of the world rule, not just rule, but ruin like the world that we live in. So I do think that
I feel like we should, because in Ghana, right, back in 2020, the ex-president of Ghana started this year of return, and it was to promote Black Americans moving back to Africa, to stay or to invest or to, you know, to join or to embrace the culture over there. And I feel like we are doing that, but there is still mentality of some people that think that I don't really think that I should go back there. Why is that? Well,
it's some people who think that they only want Black Americans to come for the financial investment. And
it's not even about the financial investment, but I feel like they just want the connection, you know? Because even in our music industry, it's more of like, there's this new genre in Ghana, Kumasi, and it's Asaka, and it's black, like it's Black American type, it's drill, they do the drill and the trap and everything. So I feel like there's a connection, and we really have to embrace both cultures, you know. I should take you to Ghana.
I would love to go. You're gonna teach me some Ghanese, right?
You can say etese.
Etese.
Which is, how are you?
How are you? Etese.
Etese. Mehoye.
Mehoye.
Na also Mehoye na wonswe.
Mahoye no anse.
Mehoye
Mahoye
na wonswe.
Wonswe.
Yeah, it means I'm good and you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna have to practice that some more.
And akwaba.
Akwaba
Means welcome.
Welcome. Akwaba. I think I get that. Akwaba.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like I could teach you pidgin as well.
I would love that.
Pidgin is more of like English, but it's like, what's up? Where they go on?
Okay. What's up? Where you going?
No, what's up? What's the go on?
What's the go on?
What the go on?
What the go on?
Yeah. It's like,
Okay.
what's going on?
Okay. What the go on?
Yeah.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah. Start
Ghana
studying that.
It's an amazing place. I feel like, yeah.
I want to go. I
Yeah,
want
we
to
should
go to Ghana.
time.
I want to go to Kenya. The thing that I found interesting is like the more Africans I encountered, the ones that think that you might be from their country seem friendlier. So like a lot of times people mistake me for someone from Eritrea. And so like Eritrean people will come and talk to me and because they like think that I'm from there. And I'll be like, okay, so that's interesting, you know? But if I like, there have been times I was trying to do like interviews on the street with African people and I would see someone and I'm like, hey, do you have a few minutes? And they're like, you know, like looking at me like, why the hell are you talking to me? And so I'm just like, you know, I wanted to do a video. I wanted to talk about culture, your experiences here in Italy, you know, just a quick blah, blah. And they're like, no. And like almost really like ran away from me.
It's just them being rude or something.
I mean, maybe it's interesting. I mean, I had more like Asian people agree to talk to me or North African, but like a lot of people I'm like, oh, you know, no.
Wow, I'm really sorry that you had to have that. You had that experience, but it's not like that. You know, Africans are really welcoming people, and we should go.
No, I would love it.
Yeah.
I would love it.
It's better if you see it for yourself rather than me telling you.
No, I would love it. I don't know if I qualify for Ghanaian because I did my DNA and I don't have any Ghanaian.
Oh really?
No.
What was your?
It was some Cameroon and Nigerian, and then like I feel like just that kind of area: Cameroon, Nigerian,
You
Bantu.
could be Yoruba.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nigeria is also a good place. Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
But I don't know how much percentage you need, like, because I had like a little of everything.
Oh, okay.
It was
what was the big?
The biggest was from Cameroon.
Okay.
And then it was like Cameroon, then
Yeah,
Nigerian,
Cameroon.
and then there was like Bantu, Mali. It was like a bunch of different,
Yeah, you should visit Cameroon as well. I think you will like it.
Yeah, no, I
I want
would.
to go as well.
I want to go all over, so I like to travel, so I would love to go. I want to go see Kenya, I want to see, yeah, every place.
Wow, that's amazing. So you was talking about, okay, let's go back to history, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Black Americans feel betrayed?
By Africans? I think to a certain extent. I think historically, one of the problems with Black Americans is that they still haven't accepted that they're just American now. You know, because in the US it's like you're African American, you're this American, you're that American. And our relationship with the idea of being African or of African descent has always had like, I think, mixed feelings for a lot of Black Americans because Africa has always been portrayed, you know, to the west of the world in a certain way. And growing up with the umbrella of like knowing your descendants from slave, knowing that you are, I mean, because really when you think about for Black Americans, the trauma is really still recent because like my mother was born during segregation, you know, so, and which means my grandmother experienced Jim Crow. So I'm like, when you think like, I am, and people in my age group in the, like who were born in the 70s and some in the 80s were the first generation of Black Americans who were born into a world that it wasn't legal to discriminate against them, you know? So these kind of wounds from that history is still relatively fresh generationally. And so I think that because a lot of Africans are so detached and disassociated with our history that started there, when we have these relationships, they feel, and people are like, you know, I don't know, like indifferent towards them or indifferent, like not feeling welcomed or not feeling, yeah, they don't know where to put that emotions either. Because if you try and say, okay, well, Africa is my true home, you know, and then when you meet Africans, they're like, you black, so what? You know what I mean? Like,
there's no connection.
Yeah, there's no connection. So I think they are still grappling like emotionally and mentally with that, because you know there are some black folks that are now talking about they're indigenous to the Americas, and I feel like that's another level of like strange disassociation from not feeling like you can still call America home.
Yeah, and I feel like in Africa, growing up, I was so invested into this topic because I learned more about history and about when the French colonized Congo and stuff, where people. So it's a really, and I feel like it should be taught in schools as well.
And I didn't realize that so many, like, because Africa's a young country and like the population there is pretty young. And I didn't realize that there were so few young Africans who understood that Black Americans, you know, are descendants of slaves from Africa, because I saw like several like videos and they were like, oh yeah, Black Americans, like they don't even have like African names. Like, why don't they have African names?
Like that is a childish.
It's crazy. But I mean, and that's the thing, like being in Europe and people are like, oh, where are you from? And I say, oh, I'm American. And they're like, oh, okay, but where are your ancestors from? America. You know what I mean? Like, exactly. And so, I mean, but my ancestors at this point, 400 years ago, you know? So of course, I think that Black Americans just have to own that they're American, because after how many generations?
I know. Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Americans, but I feel like deep you are Africans.
Of course, we're descendant of Africa. Like that's where but like Brazilians also, like there's Africans, people descended from Africa in Brazil, in the Caribbean, in Jamaica, everyone, right? They're all descended from Africa, and they were all on a ship that came from Africa and got dropped off in different places. Black Americans, because of the history with the white people there, and because like the thing in like Jamaica, Black people are the majority, right? In the Caribbean, they're the majority. Black Americans never got a majority, right? And we were hunted and killed for so long. While in those other countries, it was a Black majority and they were dealing with an entity in another part of the world. They were getting, you know, taxed and having all of these problems by France or Spain or England, but that was over there. They still had the majority in those places. And I think those disconnects is why so many Black Americans don't think about the fact that all of these people, we're all one people. You know, like when you think about it, like they got off a ship just in a different place than we did. So all of those people have a similar story to us, but somehow they are Jamaican, they're Brazilian, they're from that, you know what I mean? Like we don't question it. It's just, and we're American. We've been there just as long as everyone else.
Talking about the betrayal part, right? You know, when you put it that way, that if they feel betrayed, if they think that all of Africans, like, you know, we sold our brothers out back in the time, I feel like there were mothers and there were those loved ones that was also left behind that also grieved within them, because maybe they couldn't get on the ship as well, but a part of them also left them. You know, I'm trying to say this in the sense that although there were the bad ones that sold brothers out, but I feel like there are also others that was also there for, that also lost something when their loved ones departed from them.
So I think that, and I don't know, and maybe you can explain this in some way, because from my understanding, slavery was a thing in Africa, right?
Yeah.
It's unlikely that people sold their family, right? Or like, it's unlikely, like if they more likely sold their slaves, people that they had captured. Exactly. When you went to war, the people they captured, it's more likely they sold these people. So, and they don't know what happened to those people once they left. They may have left. They don't care. And I think that those kind of things are huge disconnects for us now, because we don't understand like the idea where you captured people and you sold them to someone else. But that was also something they would have done within the continent. The difference is that, once we got onto the other side and we were racialized and all of these other things happened that would not have happened even if we had became slaves in Africa. We could have been free at some point. We could have blended in with the rest of the fucking culture, and our children would not have necessarily been in these same predicaments, right? So I think that when Black Americans see what happened, after we got there, and nobody was like, oh, well, that shit's fucked up. Maybe we need to try and go and get our people. I think those are things like Africans never started any wars for any of their people, or didn't pursue those kind of things. And we can't talk about like why culturally that just wasn't a thing. And Africa's been exploited as well by colonization, and continues to be exploited by the West of the world. And to a certain extent, the ruling powers let that happen, and it's
the leaders.
Yeah.
The leaders back in Africa are really corrupt, and it's crazy. It's really sad to see at this moment we still have that. They still have to come out here to get money whilst we have all these resources.
Yeah.
I feel like we could be doing more better, but it's like the mentality as well. They come out here, they sell us out just for money.
Yeah.
To enrich themselves.
And that's the colonization. Yeah. That's the global.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing that is going on. It's still going on. Like, they have worse presidents in Africa at this age. Like, in these modern times, they are supposed to be thinking about how to push the country forward, but this is not the case. They are trying to get money for themselves, and it's crazy and now in my country, you don't even know because both parties come, they start doing what the people want, and after they fuck it. And the other party that you think will come and save you, they also have the same mentality, and it's really sad.
I mean, it's really sad, and I mean, it's the sad thing is it's up to the people, right? The majority of the people, and I think this is the same problem that we have as a collective group of people of color, not just Black people, but all of us that can fall under that umbrella of brown people. We do not have a collective or a class direction, to take everyone in, to say, we want a better life for everybody. There is constantly this idea that, well, I need to be on top. I need to be on top. And that is part of like how we've been socialized, and our mentalities and our emotional well-beings have also been colonized, to constantly fight the many so that we can be one of the few that has more. And it's played out throughout history over and over again. We'll have a revolution in some part of the world, and eventually it gets back to the same thing.
So I feel like we should just unite and like find a a new force or something.
We have to. We need to.
Yeah.
We definitely need that, as a global people.
And right now we see what's going on in America, and top celebrities, what's going on? Are they being attacked or something? Because there was Diddy and now it's Jay-Z. What's going on?
No, what's going on is that they're all pedophiles and
really?
yeah, and rapists.
Really? Okay, on Diddy I can't speak on that because the matter is still in the court. But Jay-Z...
You saw that man on video what he did to Cassie.
Yeah, that's really bad. That's really bad.
No.
That's really bad.
No,
And
Jay-Z...
I feel like they were more power intoxicated because he felt like, all right, now I'm the guy now. Like, you can't do shit. So I can...
Of course, that plays a part of it, but they've been misusing people for a really long time. Jay-Z has, Jay-Z has been known to go after very young girls.
Really?
Yeah. And like Maya, he tried to ruin her career because he asked her out on a date when she was 15 and she turned him down. He was like 23. And she's like turned him down, and then he started spreading rumors about her being hard to work with. And he was supposed to do, this was when he was supposed to do a verse on one of her songs, and then he was trying not to get out of doing the verse. He tried to ruin her, and now stuff is coming out where he misused people when they were underage, even his freaking wife. Like he had been,
I saw people, they used to backdate it and say she was younger when they met.
She was younger when they met, and he groomed her, and I think that is part of the reason why we don't see Beyonce. She doesn't talk, you know what I mean? She doesn't do interviews. I mean, they don't want her to be revealed. I think,
Really?
like
Beyonce?
yeah. Why doesn't she? What do we know about Beyonce?
We know that she's the biggest, like...
That's it. But that's it.
But I feel like as an artist, that's what's the most important thing, is you being out there. It's like your music is what matters, not your personal life.
Not your personal life, but look at Rihanna. Okay, she's not a good musician, but she has a personality.
She's not a good musician.
She can't sing.
Nah.
Umbrella, Ella. She cannot sing. She is. Listen, I love her hustle. I love her in respect to like what she has done for herself. But I do not want to hear her sing.
Rihanna.
No.
4 or 5 seconds till Friday.
I love Rihanna, but she cannot sing to me.
5, 4 seconds.
Whatever. I don't know. All I like the first song, Umbrella, Ella. No. I can't do it. I can't do it.
One of the most. Rihanna.
I love Rihanna. I don't think she can sing, however.
Really?
I think she is a badass. I think she is amazing. But I think that because how she puts her personality out there, you know what I mean? Like, even though she, you don't necessarily know a lot about her personal life, you don't, but she has a personality that you can say she's kind of funny, she's a bit of smart ass, you know what I mean? She has, yeah, like you have an idea of how she presents herself. Beyonce, she sings. She's a great artist. I think she has an amazing voice. She performs well, but you don't get a sense of her personality after all of these years. Like you really don't. So, and I think because she doesn't do interviews, and I mean, I
feel like, to me personally, I feel like it's good, when you don't really get involved with the media when it comes to those aspects, because you could see what happened to Whitney.
It can still happen to people. Like, it's even more likely if something happened to her, because there are all kinds of rumors about her relationship with Jay-Z. If something happened to her, they could create a narrative because no one knows her. It's easier to say what someone was, like if she were to like be found in a bathtub, Lord forbid, whatever, you know what I mean? It's easier to say what a narrative could be versus like well, you know what, she didn't seem like that type of person or whatever. You have no idea. So, and that's the thing in the industry, they create who they want to create, you know, and I think that even if your public persona isn't real, you give somebody something to relate to. And I think that is why, honestly, you know, Beyonce has tried other businesses outside of singing that never really got off the ground. And I think that's why, because people don't connect with her outside of her performing. Whereas Rihanna, she don't have to ever sing again. She had, you know what I mean? She don't ever have to sing again. She has multiple lanes of her own, like, industry that she is making millions of dollars. She's already a billionaire, you know? So I think that makes a difference, like, in them. But as far as these dudes go, no, they did it.
But I feel like American music industry has always had a dark side kind of thing.
Yeah, I think all industries that are making multi-millions of dollars off of people have as their dark sides.
Because even in Africa right now, most artists that are doing good out there are being exploited by these record labels, and they can't speak up. Back, I think 2 years ago or a year ago, Mohbad, he's a Nigerian singer, and he got killed. And it was crazy. It all related back to the record label and stuff. So I feel like, just like what you said, every industry that's making multi-millions has a dark side, as you said.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, when we look at, and I told you before, I'm like, they tell you what they be doing. You know, like, they tell you what they doing. You just don't listen, or you don't understand, because, you know, the beat is hot and you just want to dance. And, you know, a lot of music, when you listen to it, especially like back in the day, they were idolizing.
Said something about spiking champagne.
Exactly. Drugging women.
But we just let it slide.
Exactly. Idolizing Ike Turner, you know, like, you know, there's so many lyrics where they're like, I'm going to do you like I did Tina, you know?
So talking about lyrics, right? They are trying some rappers based on their lyrics. What do you think about that?
What do you mean?
Because just like Young Thug, I don't think Young Thug got tried for his lyrics, but they brought it up in court that he said some lines that's related to him
in
people. Yeah, in songs.
I mean, at this point, I don't think that should be admissible in court, because, like, people say, like, we were talking about, like, here in Italy, people are constantly rapping about life experiences that they never had. And you know what I mean? They're like, oh, I was in a trap house. You don't even know what a trap house is, you know? Like, so I can't say that, especially now, because people have, like, rap and hip hop have gotten to the point where it's just, these are things that you say. It's not necessarily the life that you've lived. Back in the day, people used to rap as a release for the lives that they had and the things that they were going through, and not necessarily, and looking for a way out of that. Now it's like people are like trying to get into like doing stuff to sell. Yeah, it's just like, no, like they want to rap about it. And then people are like, you're not really doing that. And then they want to try it. Like, then they have to try and be that person. So I don't necessarily think that lyrics are
Okay, so the reason why I asked you that is because you said they say it in their songs.
Yeah, but with women it's different.
So now it's kind of...
No, I think with murder, you can't be like, I murdered somebody, because that's what they talk about. But with women, yeah, I think with women, they're talking about what they're doing. Because
well, it's the same thing. Right?
It's not the same thing. It's kind of like how we socially accept that men can be exploitative to women, right? And men are more likely, because it's an easier target to do that. It's harder to kill somebody for most men than to sexually assault. Like, to sexually assault someone is far easier than murdering someone.
I feel like it's the same though, because people say it and it actually happens.
Yeah, but I think people will lie about like killing people versus exploiting women.
Really?
Yeah.
But all the same, it's not a good thing. That should I feel
The
like
thing is, though,
people-
I don't think those lyrics can still be admissible in court. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that.
like yeah,
You know what I mean? Even if they start saying, "Oh, I was drugging women," and then a woman says he drugged me, and he said it in a song. Those aren't the same thing.
Because I could also say like music is art, and art is you just create stuff. Because okay, let's say someone writes book about murder, like someone that was out there on the killing spree, right? It's a book, it's supposed to have a message. And I feel like it's the same as a music. You are supposed to be able to be any character you want to be in, or any message that you
But
want.
why do so many men want to be rapists in there?
That's the point. Like,
You know
why?
why so many men want to be rapists?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I can understand wanting to like choke somebody until they stop breathing,
yeah.
but
You can carry out message, but it doesn't mean you should carry out shitty
exactly,
message. Right?
exactly.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
I mean, I can more relate to be like, I might want to choke somebody. Like, shut up. Just
Yeah.
shut up. I might want to choke. But raping them, no.
That's crazy.
Like,
That's jail time.
I mean, it should be, but it's, apparently, again, not as much jail time as you would get if you murder someone.
You was talking about the gangster that had fever. Yo, that was hilarious.
Yeah, so I was watching an Italian gangster movie, and it was like the kids are young and everything, and they were planning some sort of, I don't know, heist, and one of them had a fever. And it was just like, only in Italy can you be a gangster with a fever. Like, I was just like, he's laying in bed, and they're coming, like, oh, like, we'll have to postpone because Gianluca has a fever. So yeah, it's a lot of like, oh God.
So thank you all for staying with us. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Thank you for
conversation
having
with
me.
you as well. Yeah. So make sure you subscribe and like and share. On YouTube is the Culture Convo. Same on Spotify and Apple Music as well. You can find us there. Thank you. Bye.